Ritter's trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease. Score!
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bubba?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pod Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And we have one of the Matts with us, Matt Casey.
Ooh, new year, new Matt. Here we go.
No idea where Hoagie's at. He's been completely unresponsive.
Yeah, didn't he go see Lyle the Crocodile or something like that?
He went to see oh god, what's the methed out scarecrow that everybody's obsessed with?
The guy who was like married
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Oh, we went to see Pete Davidson.
Yeah, cheers to the cheers to the heroin addict who lives in his mom's basement. Like, yeah, way to go.
What is that guy's deal? What's he? Saturday Night Live?
Saturday Night Live made him big, yeah.
And then didn't he marry Amanda Grande or whatever her name is?
Ariana Grande? They were dating for a while. Not a while. I don't.
It's just one of those things where it just perplexes me. It's like, oh, why is the tatted up, Gumby looking dude?
Well, doesn't he have some sort of condition though?
No, is that it? No,
that's it.
Damn
it. Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk some hockey, I guess.
Speaking of sticks.
Let's get into a little bit of the yearly West Coast road trip. Every single year, it happens because of Disney on Ice. We used to curse Disney on Ice. We still kind of do. John's got a whole new respect for it right now.
I just went to Disney on Ice, Casey.
Oh, we're going to Disney in February, and I'd rather put bamboo shoots in my fingernails than go down there. It's like, how do I stand in line for 3 hours and just shovel money into a furnace? Oh, let's go to Disney World. Yeah.
Well, we're sitting at this Disney on Ice thing, and I'm like going to the kids. They're just doing the same moves over and over and over again with different costumes on, right?
What's the snowman? What's that stupid snowman? Orloff. Like, come on, Orloff. Let's get that triple sow cow in there.
But so, this year it started off good. It ended up being a 4-1 win in Vancouver to kick off the road trip, which was nice. Overtime loss in Seattle. Okay, whatever. Then we kind of get to a little bit of a skid. Fell to Calgary 4-3, fell to Edmonton 5-2. And then that was really it for the road trip itself. Now, 4 games, road trip, whatever you want to call it. They got back on track a little bit here, at least recently, regarding shootout loss to Columbus. That sucked. The win in Calgary was nice, though. Let's get into the West Coast road trip a little bit and tell me a little bit about kind of your thoughts. I know you don't stay up for these games, but in terms of what you saw maybe on the stat sheet, tell me a little bit about what you thought.
I mean, I honestly I was pleasantly surprised by the game against Vancouver because this was supposed to be like one of the hottest teams in the NHL, where it's like, I feel like this year, every time I get excited, I'm trying to get that like one step back to earth. And then it was like that Vancouver one. I'm like, holy crap. All right. I don't know what to do with this team. We are much better than I expected. Seattle, to me, was another one of those games where it's like, okay, we lost it, but we still got a point. We're still in it. We're still fighting. And then you just saw like a slow dip. And I know some people were freaking out, but like, this is a road trip that is grueling. It's during the holidays. I've never expected good stuff when we go on this road trip. So although in Calgary and Edmonton, I wanted to get wins or get some points, like it didn't really mess with me as much as it messed with some people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have high expectations just because, again, the historics of it, being bad on these West Coast road trips, but thought with the way the team was doing might be a little bit different. maybe I don't want to say better than anticipated, but it wasn't like gruesome like
Mhm.
most of our West Coast road trips have been. But Casey, your initial thoughts on how it all panned out?
Yeah, I think I'm also looking at it from the 2 games prior to the holiday, which I know the Detroit one was right before, but I'm trying to remember what was right before Detroit, and I can't remember what it was. But that Detroit game was mayhem. Being
Yeah.
down
Mm.
5-1.
I forgot all about that.
And like
game.
we were all
Mhm.
texting. I was like, thank God I'm not watching this. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I should tune in. And then it was like the eventual, like, okay, loss in overtime
Yeah.
or shootout, whatever. But you just saw elements of the game, and specifically forecheck, kind of the speed transition, just start to fade. And you're hoping that you just get to the holiday break, and they did. And getting a point out of that Detroit game is great. But you get to that holiday break. Then they come out swinging against Vancouver, which again, I penciled that in as a loss in a huge way.
Mhm.
But you saw it creep in, and that road trip is tough. And not that Vancouver and Seattle are far. What is it, like a 12-minute plane ride or something like that?
Right.
Right. You spend more time at the checkpoint at the border.
They probably take a boat.
You're jumping back and forth, and you're going Calgary, you're going
Right.
to
Right.
Edmonton, you're going back and forth. And so I was not that I was shocked, but I was expecting a little more out of that. At least getting 4 out of 8 points out of that would have been successful for
Sure.
me. So I can't help but say, that's a disappointment. And then coming back and playing a bad Columbus team who was depleted, and that
Mhm.
killed me. The thing is, though, I don't think we necessarily played that bad in the Columbus game. It's just we could not net a goal. And once they scored that first goal after our second one, and it was 2-1, you could just see the energy get sucked out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, I think, one thing that's impressing me about the team is that they're getting a ton of shots on net. I mean, they're consistently out shooting the opposing team, which is nice to see considering how long has it been since we were looking, oh man, we had 8 shots through 2 periods, like the AV days, So it's nice to see growth, at least in that area. However, I quality of shots, I'm not quite sure. Again, without watching these back and watching it closely, maybe I'm a bit concerned about quality of shots because these guys have some shooters that can put the puck in the net. Atkinson used to be at least one of them, that we'll get into here in a little bit in regards to benchings. But regardless, your Farabees, your Tippett's, to an extent, you could say your Morgan Frosts because guy sure as shit knows how to score.
When he's
waiting for those guys to really, start, to get firing on all cylinders.
Well, Tippett's one of those where it's like I felt, especially in a Columbus game, after a while, it was just like, okay, man, you're just throwing pucks at the net.
Right.
This is starting to turn into quantity and just on a prayer at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough too because you're seeing that top line. I want to bring it back to chemistry, I guess, with lines and continuity with lines. And right now, that top line of Coots, TK, and Farabee is great. I think they're playing really, really solid. It was a bummer that Farabee was in the box for 40 minutes yesterday, but respect on why he was in there. It wasn't a dumb thing to do. But you're just looking for continuity and a chip in from any of the other 9 forwards.
Right.
And I think when that happens, we have a great chance to win because I think our top line is good for at least a goal, possibly 2 a game. But that secondary, the Tippetts, the Frosts, on down the line, we got to get something from them. It doesn't have to be every single night from every guy, but it's each one of those lines has got to chip in at least 1 goal a night.
Right. Well, Cates is on his way back here soon. Now, again, knowing how he played leading up to his his departure and his injury, getting back a fully healthy Noah Cates, do you think that does something in regards to a little bit of firepower there on the offense?
I mean, I don't really view him as much of a goal scorer.
Sure.
To me, he's not one of those guys where I'm all of a sudden going, oh, here we go. Here's, a goal every other night or, every other 2 games or whatever it might be. Maybe his play will free up some of the other players, but I don't know. I think that the scorers are on the ice right now, and they're just all snake bitten at the same time.
Yeah.
I think what. Sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
You're good. So with a defensive minded forward, like you could say Noah
Mhm.
Cates is, wouldn't you think that would free some of the other guys up to take some of those chances?
I think that's where I don't think we're going to be getting a ton of goals from Cates. And even last year, like when he was playing, at his best, he still wasn't being relied on for scoring. However, what I think it does is it gives us reliability in there to honestly during this stretch, this month-long January, which is going to be tough. Like, Jesus, what are the two rookies' names? Forrester and Brink. Those guys need to sit. And I'm not saying they're playing awfully, but like they clearly are like at a point where they have like hit their max from an energy standpoint, and they need to take a seat for a minute. And doing that without having a fall off or the God forbidden 11 forward, 7 defensemen, which I think is the worst thing in the world. It's like you have another really solid player in there to at least give you some variation in the lineup based on who you're playing, and also just get people a little bit of a breather.
Right. Let's get this out in the open here. 11 forwards, 7 defensemen is a terrible idea.
Hate it.
Dumbest thing, I think. One of the dumbest things in hockey.
Tortorella iced that game against Columbus. What was that guy's name? Rhett Gardner?
Right.
Bring up my boy Belpedio again.
Right.
Like we were rolling with Belpedio.
He sounds like somebody who's playing like happy hours in Nashville. Rhett Gardner.
Open mic night.
This is Brett Gardner with Whispering in the Wind.
Say Brett Gardner. He was a Yankee, wasn't he? Is he still playing?
I'll have to find. Is that his name?
Brett Gardner is a baseball player.
Rhett Gardner.
We're talking Rhett Gardner. Yeah, who again? I made the joke.
Brett Gardner singing "Friends in Low Places" at the local tavern.
I write. Who the hell is Gardner? And Don just goes, I think he's a AHL mainstay. You have no idea who this guy is.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, I mean, and it gets Mark Stahl back in the lineup, which we all know. I mean, we anticipated him to be kind of that fringe 6'7" guy, but like, I don't want him being a mainstay in this lineup. Like, Zamula's playing well.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about Zamula?
Sure.
I know exactly what you're about to say. Yeah.
I like everyone, not everyone, but people always complain, how come we're not playing the young guys? When are the young guys going to get a chance? Like, all that sort of stuff. Like, Zamula's quietly just kind of inserted himself as an NHL defenseman. And he's not blowing the doors off, but what is he, 22, 23, something like that? And
something like that, yeah.
Torts even on the presser yesterday, it was just like, this power play is getting more and more comfortable and getting chemistry with Zamula back there. So I just want to say good for him, man. Good for him.
Right. He's taking the opportunity.
At the beginning of the season, I was ready. I was like,
we all were.
Yeah,
I was on that same boat. I said, nope, I don't want him. But I mean, I like that. However, again, another reference to the high and wide chat here. I told these guys I'm more than comfortable seeing a little bit more Belpedio. Like, again, not a type of guy that's going to blow the doors off the place, but like Zamula, in his time in the NHL, I thought he played well. I thought he was a very serviceable bottom pairing defenseman that you could rely on, playing 15, 16 minutes a night. I was cool with that. That's because at the end of the day, you got Sealer, who's not getting bumped out of the lineup, which I don't think he should at all. And insert name here.
He's up for the best defenseman award at this point, man.
Right. So crazy.
Right. But like that, and again, this is back to our discussion from the beginning of the season of just this revolving door of defensemen that we're probably going to continue to have, because I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 got dealt by the deadline if there's serious interest, which there's been rumors about Ristolainen, could be, I don't know. Again, Sealer could be a nice get for somebody, whatever it might be. But like Belpedio and Zamula stepped up. He's, again, he's consistently okay. And I can be okay with that, A
real quick sidebar on Ristolainen. As much as I like him, what a blessing in disguise it would be if we could get someone to take on his contract.
Yeah, he's 3 years left, maybe.
Isn't it 4?
I mean, he's got a while. Like, I still like him, and I still think he is misslotted on the third pairing. Like, I don't hate it, but the fact that Sealer and Walker are playing so well, it's like, how do you break that up but the one game he played on the top line with York, he had the best game of his career.
Right. He seems like a guy that you can throw minutes at and he'll be okay. Like he'll swim. He'll keep his head above water. Now, putting him in more of a limited role, I feel like you don't get to see all the aspects of his game because, again, more minutes, you expand upon that, and he can show you what he can do. That contract, though, to bury that on a bottom pairing, it's kind of like,
Right.
Yeah.
That's my issue. But like, back to your point with the defenseman, I think with Belpedio, like I agree with you. He was great to bring in. My issue is he's 28 or 29.
Right.
Like he's not really bringing. He's not bringing that
Right.
youth movement that we're hoping for. I think he's good in a pinch, and especially if we're continuing to try to contend here. Like, okay, good.
Right.
This guy has 12 NHL games this year under his belt. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome that we have that. I'd rather have that versus bring up Andre and watch him like flop in the wind. But
He's been playing well though.
And circumstance is the biggest thing, Casey, right? It's like if we were a bottom 5 team like we were all expecting, then it's like, okay, then you bring in an Adder, an Andre, whatever. Yep. But it's like if you're contending and you want a little bit more assurance, you put in somebody like Belpedio.
Yeah. But if we do end up being sellers at the deadline and people have interest in Sealer or Walker, what I do think it allows us to do is like, hey, I'm fine with the second pairing of Ristolainen and Belpedio. I'm okay with that. So like, I do think it gives us a little bit of variation in there. For
area of strength.
Yeah. Ooh. Which is
something
really
we're not used to.
Yeah.
Right. Especially because the beginning of the year, like, yo, defense.
What is going to happen here?
Now, maybe it's just me too, but like the one guy I'm waiting to see if he pans out because he's young enough, former first round, I think either first round or really early second round, Helge Grans.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see what he can bring to the table. Not sure if he'll earn a call up here this year, but I mean, are you guys intrigued a little bit by that?
Did he come over in the LA trade? Was that
he was part of the LA trade? Yeah.
I honestly have not given the guy one bit of thought. I've thought more about Wade Allison than I have him.
Really?
I kind of forget about Wade Allison.
I know. I need some proof of life, I think.
I've forgotten about Wade Allison. Like he could be a call up, sure. If you're going to bench Forrester, Brink, bring him back up, see what he can prove.
That doesn't sound like he was doing all that hot down in the AHL.
He wasn't. It took him a long time to score a goal. I know that. I'd like to see him come back up and have a little bit of success, but like not going to shed a tear if he doesn't. Either way, though, in terms of benchings, I know we talked about the potential benchings for Brink and for Forrester. There were 2 benchings, which one should come as no surprise because there's a benching for him every other game. Morgan Frost, one, in my opinion, a long overdue benching for Cam Atkinson. And we saw them sit out, I believe it was the Columbus game, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes. And we lost that game. I don't think that has anything to do with them being benched. However, they come back in for the Calgary game. We kind of see more of the same from Atkinson. However, Frost, pretty strong game, I think. Goal and an assist. Sidebar, the assist on the Couturier goal where Couturier banked it off Markstrom. Beautiful goal. Beautiful goal.
That was grade A luck right there. Yeah. That wasn't
I don't care.
That's how we cracked the power play drought right there. Like,
right. But I mean, let's talk a little bit about kind of moving forward here and what we've seen from Atkinson so far versus what we want to see. And if this is going to impact his mindset, because Torts has been very clear about the intentions behind benchings. And we'll kind of get into this a little bit here in a little bit, but he wants it to be a wake-up call, as it should be. Is that what this is going to be for Atkinson? And what can we expect or hope to see with his game moving forward? So I'll start with Casey because I went to John first here, but shoot.
Yeah, I think with Atkinson, one, it was a long overdue, as you said. He was given a very long leash, like one of those extender leashes that just keeps going and going until you finally hit the thing and retract. I don't necessarily think, yes, he is there to score goals. It's frustrating for he's not oblivious to the fact he hasn't scored in 20 some odd games, 22, 23 games. But I think where the benching really came in is the fact that he was doing dumbass penalties and like just not trying as hard. So I think it's not like, hey, you need to score goals. It's like you need to stop doing this other bullshit. And yesterday I don't think he had necessarily a bad game per se. He had a couple chances. He had that one breakaway at some point in the second, I think, where like, man, you'd love to see him bury that thing. It was a great 2-on-1 and he was in alone. Just need to see him bury it. But whatever that goalie is, what's his name? Markstrom. That guy's kicked our ass for 2 games now, man. He's good.
Right. Yeah.
So, I like to think that Cam is a consummate professional and he will see this as a wake-up call and understand, and he had the conversation with Torts and he knows what's expected. So we'll see though.
Right. I think for me too, what it breaks down to is, you said he had that great breakaway in Calgary, and we've seen it multiple times before. I'm not going to be able to give you specifics, but just from watching the games, shot quality. I think with Atkinson, like, he gets the opportunities, but the shots he's putting on net aren't high quality shots. Like, you're not getting the guy that's going to pick a corner. Most of the time he's putting it right in the guy's breadbasket. And I don't know whether it's just lack of effort. I don't want to speak to that. But I'll speak to the fact that it's so frustrating watching when you know that guy can bury these shots.
Yeah.
So your take on this, John?
I mean, I look at it this way. It's well documented that Tortorella and Atkinson are close, right? They've had a pretty long history with one another. They both kind of come out and said that they're close because of their history with one another. So to me, conversations have probably been happening through this entire slump, I guess, for lack of a better word. And Tortorella probably got to the point where it was like, okay, our conversations, our check-ins, whatever you want to call them, about what needs to improve, it's not working, right? So now it's time for you to be benched. And I think that Atkinson, again, must have saw this coming. I don't think that he's going to hold any ill will from what I read in the comments afterwards when he was asked. Like, it seems like he understands that this needed to happen. So I don't really expect this to have any sort of residuals. Will it change anything? I think in terms of the penalties and things like that, Casey, I think it will. But like goal scoring, I don't know if a benching can really fix that.
Right. I do think I don't know if he got an assist, but like the other night, like he had a couple plays where like, okay, he was involved. He was involved in some, and it's like, at least be a positive force versus a detriment to the team, which is what he was doing for a couple games.
Right. And with a team that has lackluster offense, you can't afford to just have stupid plays or stupid penalties and things like that. And I think that that's where Tortorella is like, if you're not going to be able to score, fine, but you can't bite us in other ways.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Of all the guys on this team, too, I think it's safe to say that he has the longest history, Atkinson does, with Tortorella.
Yeah, definitely.
So to me, this is a pivotal point in that relationship. To my knowledge, again, I could tell you probably with 95% confidence that I don't think Torts has benched Atkinson before. Again, I'd have to look back through. But now you look at a guy who's been with Tortorella for a good bit. He has a long-standing relationship with the guy. That guy just benched him. How is he going to take it? I would assume as a consummate professional. However, you did just get benched by the guy that, is kind of your guy. So how he reacts to this moving forward, how his game looks, at least I want to see the effort. I want to see better shots. Like, that's the one thing I'm going to keep harping on it. I want to see this guy have better quality shots on net instead of just every single time right in the goalie's chest. Like, that's getting more frustrating to me than anything in regards to his play.
I wonder too, you remember last year, I guess the beginning of last year, TK had a really down year 2 years ago, and he spent time with Briere just going through like, hey, here's where you're shooting from. And it was all outside the dots. And he's like, oh, okay. Now that I see, I'm wondering and I'm hoping that, whether it's Briere or somebody else who is of similar stature and like game style that Atkinson was, quite frankly, if he sits down and tries to pick some brains there and figure out some other ways of, all right, what are some trends that I'm doing? Why are these shots not going in?
Sure. And speaking of that, the main part of the episode I want to get to here, Frost and Tortorella finally did have their sit down. Frost went into Tortorella's office, according to reports. There was a good article written by Jordan Hall that I had sent over to John just so everybody knew what was going on. I read through it. I also read an article from Anthony Sanfilippo on Crossing Abroad as well. Good details in regards to the comments made, which a lot of them were made post-game against from I believe Columbus or Calgary. I can't remember. Initially, Tortorella's like, I'm not getting into this. This is between Frost and I, and obviously so. That's fine. No one needs to know the intricacies of it. However, to me, and I'll kind of start off here for a second, I'm intrigued and I'm actually happy that we know it was Frost that came to Tortorella. Right. I think that is a huge step in the right direction for this guy. Whereas every other meeting these two have had, it's a season-ending interview. It's, season beginning, whatever it might be. Like, nice to see this. And I think Tortorella said it in his press conference. He's the type of guy that come to me, talk to me, open channels for communication.
But you need to be the one to initiate it.
Right. And that's, I agree with that. I really do. If you've got a problem, there's a way to go about it. You don't go into the media. You go right into that office and say, hey, let's hash this out. I want a clean slate and let's talk about it. But great stuff, in my opinion. I mean, tell me a little bit about your thoughts with this, John.
I mean, my head kind of goes in different places, and I really want to know, and I know we're not going to know, and I understand why we won't, but I want to know if it was all right, John, Coach, Torts, whatever we're going to call him, JT, if you will. What do I need to improve on, right? That's one conversation, right? What do you see? What do I need to improve on to remain in the lineup? Or, Tortorella, I disagree with you. I don't understand why you keep pulling me out. Why do you keep picking on me, right? Because I do think that those are two different conversations. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't necessarily blame Frost if he had more of the disagreement conversation where it's like, I can't understand why you're benching me. Because as much as I don't really think Morgan Frost is a part of the Flyers' long-term plan, it doesn't make sense that this is the guy who keeps getting benched. I mean, he has offensive upside. Whether or not it's reaching the potential we all wished, we can debate. I mean, I think we all would come to the same conclusion. But it's like when you are a team that really needs offensive production, he's not the guy you keep taking out of the lineup. So I understand that frustration. So I am really curious. It's cool that they had this conversation, but I'm not necessarily going, all right, well, it's fixed.
Right.
I think that there's still probably a problem here that they don't see eye to eye on what's taking place.
Sure. But like that meeting should have done something to that relationship between the two.
Sure.
And I think there's a newfound respect Tortorella has for Frost now that Frost has done that and walked into his office and tried to clear the airwaves. So I'm optimistic.
Right.
Again, don't see this being like oh my God, now it's fixed. Everything's fine. He's not coming out of the lineup. But at the very least, at the absolute least, this is a huge step in the right direction for Frost, at least.
I honestly, I go the other direction. I cannot believe it took his 11th scratching to go in and talk with Tortorella. Like that is mind-boggling to me. And the fact that it's such a big deal, it's like, okay, maybe his personality, and I think Tort said this, like, he's a quiet guy. He probably like wasn't raised to like question the coach and say, okay, that's fine for games like 4 through 7. But like, dude, if you keep getting yo-yoed in and out of this lineup, you got to figure out why. You're a professional. Like, figure out why you are not, you're making what, $2.1 million a year, like sitting in the press box? Like, hell no. Like, you get in there and figure out why. And so I think that's my first thing. Am I glad that they had the conversation? Absolutely. I just can't believe it took this long.
100%.
I will say that, not that it's any way, shape, or form comparable. I was benched by like sophomore year on the lacrosse team and like for like 2 weeks for drinking, and understandably so. But they were like, you have to go down to JV for 2 weeks. And then I came back and I was so pissed. And I came back. And my first shift on, I just ripped a goal, and I was kind of like, fuck you, coach. And that's exactly what I saw with Morgan Frost when it was like, he netted that goal. You could see the excitement in that kid's face.
100%. And rightfully so.
He does. I'm sorry, Derek.
You're good. You're good.
I just think like he does kind of rub me as the kind of player where it's like, no, I'm not wrong. I'm going to prove you're wrong.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Which is fine if he keeps proving them wrong.
Yep.
100%.
And I'm cool with that.
And the post-game comments were pretty telling too, in regards to the type of person Frost is. Tortorella went on to say about how he seems so unassuming, seems like he was probably brought up to be the type of guy that wouldn't talk to coaches just because there's that coach and then player. Like there's those two different dynamics. However, I mean, I'm sure you guys can relate. Like there's something wrong, you go to the source, Right. I can't tell you how many times John and I had arguments about what we're going to talk about on episodes, and nope, this is a stupid idea. Well, why is this a stupid idea? I think it's a great idea.
Now it's just like 8 o'clock's too late.
Right.
Get on at 8 o'clock.
What time do you have to wake up in the morning, Casey?
Hey, I've been getting up at like 5:30 or so.
Okay, I'm already on my way to the train,
and I'm up at 6. So, but regardless, again, I think that for Frost, it took a lot for him to work up the confidence to do that, which I kind of view that as a bad thing, just because like after the second or third, I'd be like, okay, now is appropriate. You should go talk to the guy. After the first, it's like, whatever, come back, score a goal, prove that you need to be in the lineup. But like, it took how many of those benchings to be like, oh, maybe I should go talk to the guy. Like, sure, that's concerning, but like, I'm willing to look past that now that it's actually happened, so that we can start off on the right foot again and put this bullshit behind us.
Because we need that. Like we need him in a huge way.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
I am curious though if like Tortorella was actually, by benching 7, if he doesn't come to me, I've kind of made up my mind on whether or not I want him as a long-term plan.
That's a good
part
point.
of a long-term plan. Whereas like, yes, he might have been proud of him for finally doing it, but I'm wondering if he was like, sorry, buddy. Like for my standard, yeah.
I can see it. I can see him being like very timid going in there, and the notorious benchings last year with Hayes, who notoriously didn't go in and say anything to him, or Konechny, who I just picture Konechny going in like in Major League, like Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn. He's like, you haven't seen the last of me, Mr. Brown. Every time I pitch against you, I'm gonna shove it up your like I can see Konechny flipping chairs and stuff, but like I can see Frost being like, knock 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 coach.
You got a minute, coach? Yeah, no, I think John brought up a good point. Like if there was that one benching that like by so many, I need to hear from him or else my mind's made up. But I'm wondering if now that it's finally happened, depending on what was discussed in there, which we may never know, which is okay. I wonder if Tortorella has at the very least like a newfound respect for him after that discussion.
I can't wait for him to bench him again.
It's going to happen. Like history repeats itself here.
Right. I really do hope he turns it around because, as we've said again and again, like this team just needs secondary scoring in a huge way. And the fact that he was our leading scorer last year, it's like, okay, it's possible. And, everyone's like, oh, he feasted on lower tier teams. It's like, man, I would have loved for him to feast on that Columbus game when we couldn't get more than 2 goals. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the lineup, but it's also if you're still in the hunt, going into February, those quote unquote easier games theoretically get easier because teams have they're shedding players at that point and selling. Right. Versus at the beginning of the year, the easy games are still like, okay, you're playing a San Jose or an Arizona, notoriously bad teams, but they're still working their asses off. So, we'll see what happens.
Right. And I mean, I think that Frost saying like, there's some things I need to get off my chest. Like, sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty you need to get off your chest, but like,
what could
you need to right. Yeah. But like the way that he delivered it to Tortorella, like I do wonder because I know he's very timid. It looks like he's very just kind of like unassuming, appearing so at least. But
Dude
like
needs to shave.
Yeah.
He looks like
Him-
that like
him and me both.
15-year-old that just got facial hair for the first time and is just refusing to shave it. That's what Morgan Frost looks like.
Like I almost hope that when he went into Tortorella's office, there's a little bit of bass in his voice. Like I really hope that's the case. I doubt it.
Mr. Tortorella, I have something I'd like to present to you.
Right. He goes in like Roger Dorn and then like
Right.
but like
Right.
I mean, how do you I guess talk like hypotheticals here. How do you think Torts reacts a normal Frost conversation with him going in like, "Hi, Mr. Tortorella," or like him coming in being like, "Hey, Torts, we need to talk." Like, what are his reactions like, one versus the other?
I'm kind of hoping. Oh, go ahead.
I think Torts is such a psychological coach that I hope that he just embraced it, and I hope he pushed back a little bit and it gave him his peace of mind. But like, it takes a lot of courage at any level to go in and be like, "Coach, I don't agree with this, and this is why," because like you're risking getting in the doghouse, although it's like, how much deeper in the doghouse could you possibly go at that point? But
Right.
so I like to think that he respects it, and I like to think it was an honest and good conversation. Everything we know, sounds like it was. We'll see though.
Right.
See if it translates.
We will see. I mean, so let's put an over under 3 more games until Frost gets benched again.
Oh,
Wow.
3
games.
I think you got to go over 3 games until he gets benched again.
I think we're going over because I got a feeling Mr. Brink's on the in the press box next game.
Okay.
Can I just add one more thing though about how we were talking about like John Tortorella reacting? I'm kind of picturing him just smiling the whole time, just being like awkwardly smiling, like excited, like it's about goddamn time you showed up here.
Petting his rescue dog like Dr. Evil.
Have you met
Hello, Morgan?
Mittens?
So nice of you to show up, Morgan.
He's like, I'll put you in the next game if you adopt Mittens over here.
So to Casey's point here, I'll put it this way: is a Brink or Forrester benching going to supersede whether Frost deserves to get benched?
I think Brink and Forrester are going to sit out. I don't think it'll be simultaneously, but I think they're both going to sit out in the next 2 weeks.
So they won't be able to afford to bench Frost no matter how he performs in these next 3 games.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I feel
by
like
default,
Forrest is almost like, okay, I got that guy. All right, check him off the list. Like, who am I gonna?
Like Steve Buscemi, just cross him off the list.
When do you think he's gonna bench Lawton? That's the one. I'm like, because I mean, if you think about
That
it,
sends the message,
right? But I just don't know if he would do. I mean, if any coach would do it, he would do it. But like that would
Oh my God, yeah.
huge.
So riddle me this.
Mm.
I think, especially if Cates comes back
Mhm.
and is effective, I don't think Lawton's trade value is ever going to get any higher.
I think it's diminished since reportedly these first round picks last year.
Yep. I'm wondering if he goes. Now, I don't want him to go. I still think he's a value to this team in the locker room and all that sort of stuff. Right. I don't care about the letter stuff. I just look at the way that he plays and like, the snarl he plays with and all that sort of stuff. But like, you're right. I just think he's faded to the back, and maybe it is because he had to be at the front of the back because there was no Couturier. There was no, TK was hurt half of last year. There was no Atkinson. Well, whatever. But, so maybe he felt like he had to step that up, but he's somebody that I can see, it's not going to be a fan favorite move, but I can see them moving it. And maybe that is the move that ends up happening.
See, I wonder though, because personally, I'd like to see Cates come back and be where he was last year. I don't want to see a Cates that we saw from earlier in the year. That's not going to instill much confidence in me in getting rid of Lawton and trading him away. Like I want to see Cates from 2022, 2023 before I make any decision on Lawton.
Yep. 100%.
John, any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm channeling my inner Hoagie here. I got caught reading this guy's comment, and I wasn't really paying attention to you. But
live commentating show during the game. I think that'd be fun. I'd be up for it if I could.
What was the ask? I don't have access.
When are you guys going to do a live commentating show during the game? You all would be great. Looking forward to tomorrow's rivalry game against the Pens for sure.
I like it. I love it. I don't think this guy realizes the scheduling issues we run into on just doing a basic show. But I do love
the three of us have children to put to bed every single night.
Like we'll comment for the last 10 minutes of the second and beyond. And
that would be really interesting though. Like the first period, we're sitting watching the game with our kids and commentating, and then they go to bed, and then it's like this.
Go get back in your fucking bed now.
I mean, listen. Here's the thing. I've always thought that Cates was the heir apparent to the Scott Lawton throne, right? Yep. I mean, I think that honestly, as much as people would say it's unpopular, I think that's best case scenario. My only worry is I don't think Scott Lawton's trade value is anywhere near what it was last year.
No,
correct.
And I'm feel like someone like John Tortorella would be like, well, his leadership qualities are much more valuable than the.
And I respect that.
4th round pick. I mean, I don't know what I feel like he's probably going to get more than a 4th round pick, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, so I don't know. Unless he starts to turn his game around, I feel like that ship might have sailed.
Yeah.
I still think some team's going to be dumb enough to give it up, though. I mean, you see stupid deals every year. Like
someone's always dumb enough to give it up. That's how I have about almost 3 kids.
Yada yada yada. I'm a daddy of 3.
Testify. But I mean, you think about every year. It seems like Toronto overpays for somebody. Pittsburgh typically does. I don't know if they're in a position that I don't think Lawton goes to Pittsburgh by any means, but like
that would
it could happen.
Yeah.
I feel like the kid from Angels in the I feel like it could happen. You know. All right, fellas. So what we've got here coming up then next week, or I should say this upcoming week, we've got the rivalry game, obviously Monday against Pittsburgh. We've got Montreal Wednesday. Then we hit the road for games on Friday and Saturday, Minnesota and Winnipeg in that order. How do you gentlemen think this team is going to fare? Winnipeg?
Yeah, I'm looking at a map here. I have no idea where Winnipeg is.
It is up there.
To my understanding, it's not a very popular destination. Now, I don't know much about Canada or Winnipeg in general, but I feel like it's a big sell to get players in Winnipeg.
It's like it's the Newark, New Jersey of Canada.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so like the New Mexico of the Union of Canada. You know, you forget it's a state.
All right. I mean, at least it's like, I mean, it looks like it's like an hour flight from Minneapolis. So at least it's not like, I thought it was all the way over in Alberta or wherever else they call those things, but
they'll get there midnight, you know, after the Minnesota game.
Yeah. I think this schedule is not
listenership in Manitoba.
This schedule is not doing us any favors. I think we'll be good for Pittsburgh. I like who do we have Wednesday?
Montreal.
Like would love to put a smack down on them. But this just doesn't get easy, man. We're playing every other day and we have multiple back-to-backs. I don't think we have I would argue that the next, what do we have? 5 games in 7 days or something like that coming up. Like it's tough. Like this is almost the make or break moment for this team where it's like, all right, is this for real? Are we really actually making a playoff run and going to push? Or is this going to be a very slow, arduous burn back to the back, which honestly is only 4 points away.
I mean, yeah, Pittsburgh is 7th in the division, and they're only 4 points behind us.
Right,
right. It's a tight division, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like one bad week, and you could swap with Pittsburgh.
Casey said that about a month ago. Yeah,
yeah, and honestly, I'm hoping we had our bad week last week. That's what my hope is, and that we are like, okay,
get that taste out of us.
I'm still standing. I'm still here.
The thing is, though, and I was thinking a lot about this today. I'm not really sure how or why, but to me, if you take away the playoffs for a second, just like take away this idea of potentially being in the postseason, I think if you asked any of us if the Flyers were competitive night in and night out, grabbing, a loser point here or there, winning games we shouldn't here or there, like playing a fun brand of hockey, we'd all sign up for it.
Absolutely.
Where it's
100%.
like, yes, making the playoffs would be awesome, and that should be the goal of this team. But it is really hard for me to knock on this team when it's like everybody pinned them for a top 5 team. And I can count on one hand maybe the games that we've been completely out of it this year.
Mhm.
Top 5 draft team, draft lottery team.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, bottom 5 is what I meant.
Right. Oh, we get it. You're right. I mean, it's still a constant debate on X right now. They should tank. Like that. We're past that now. We are far past that. This team is in a playoff spot currently. They are one of the best teams in their division, if not conference right now. Like, we're far past tanking. Like, I've accepted the fact that we have a very good hockey team and potentially could get better if Cates can come back and do well. If, if Atkinson could find his footing, if Konechny keeps putting up these numbers. The guy, side note, Konechny, superstar. He's saying that for the record right now.
He's on pace for almost a 50-goal season right now.
Right.
Like he's at like 22, and we're not halfway through.
Star.
Can I ask a coaching decision question?
No, I'm not benching Travis Konechny.
No, the Columbus game. Shootout. The only player who scored that game, the only player who's shown any offense, isn't in the shootout. Did that I don't know. Did you go?
We have Coots, Forster, and
was it Brink?
Brink.
I think it was Brink.
Right. Yeah.
I have a hard time going against Forster and Brink in the shootout just because of a point we discussed a couple weeks ago. They're new. And so there's not tape on them.
I just feel like you got to ride the hot hand here.
Sure.
And I know somebody will be able to be like, well, his numbers in shootouts where he was 1 for 20. So I don't care.
Again, lefty goalies,
right. In the moment, right? This is the only guy who scored for us all game. I don't know.
I think I'm with you. I didn't think too much about it, but I think you got to go with TK over Forster in that instance. Yeah. Forster, from a goalie standpoint, what he's doing.
Right.
He's got the shot and he shoots. And
Couturier got the one move.
Yeah, and he tried to stray away from it. Tank.
I know.
Right. And Brink, you at least see a little bit of variety in regards to his shootout attempts. However,
no problem with Brink. Yeah.
Right. I'm cool with that. He'll be fine in a shootout, which I hope we don't see that many more of, regardless. Again, side note, Urson, first shootout loss in Columbus.
Boy, oh boy, did he get undressed on that Goudreau thing.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that one at all.
Let me ask you this, not to totally delay this and go past John's bedtime again, but
we're already past my bedtime.
If I was thinking about this one, who are you more comfortable with in goal right now, Urson or Hart?
Who?
All right, so let's put it this way: you're playing your biggest rival. Hypothetically, you're playing your biggest rival tomorrow night. It's a winner take all kind of thing. You need the points. Who are you starting?
And this is
that makes it situational too, though.
The Flyers, who do I think they're going to start, or who would I start?
All right, yeah, all right. Who do you feel more comfortable? Let's stick with
John,
the original question.
Your last name just changed to Tortorella. You're making the coaching decisions. Who do you put in?
Urson.
I'm going Hart.
I'm going Hart too, but it's getting there.
Razor thin margin there.
I think the Columbus game gave Hart a little bit more, where I was before that Columbus game, I was like, dude, Urson, just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm ready to say bye to Carter Hart. I don't know. And maybe for me, it's also just the intrigue of somebody kind of coming in and stealing the spot too,
Right.
I think they're going to go hard too if we're talking about what the Flyers are going to do.
For me, it's purely situational. I think that Hart has the book on Pittsburgh, and I think that he'll be put in situations he's been in before that he's probably learned from, and he'll be okay. Now, I say that knowing full well that he could lay a stinker tomorrow, but so could Urson. We saw it against Anaheim early in the year. Like, they're both capable of both extremes here. So I'm going to go with the veteran. Call him the veteran. He's had enough games under his belt. I'll call him a veteran. We'll go with that. And then just, if Hart shits the bed, you have Urson, and you put him in and see what happens.
It's a good problem to have. We've come a long way from
right.
The 7-goalie carousel.
I'm still waiting for it to implode, though.
The Mike McKennas, the Calvin Pickards, and Anthony Stolarz, who should have never been traded.
I'm ready to be hurt again. Let's do it.
I am really curious to see what Urson do. If he keeps this up, what position does that put the Flyers and Carter Hart in terms of contract extension?
Contract? Yeah.
I'm fascinated by what that will look like.
I mean, every save Urson makes, Carter's like, motherfucker.
Bring out the mandolin.
All right, fellas. Well, anything else that we want to touch on here real quick before we decide to wrap things up?
Wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Something you should have done 3 times. Anyways, you can find us. Oh, no. Okay. All right, I just saw Casey's face, and I'm like, did I overstep? Did I overstep there? Regardless, find me on Twitter at Pod Street Bob. John's on Twitter at Pod Street Go.
Contraception.
No rubber.
All right, yeah, we're wrapping this up. John's not on Twitter, Pod Street Go. I lied. John's not on Twitter at all. We all are on Twitter at Pod St Bullies. Matt Casey, let them know where they can find you.
Hey, Pod Street Casey.
I thought you were off the sauce too, Casey.
No, I just deleted it from my phone, so I'm not on it all the time because it was getting obsessive. But during games, I fire up the laptop and I'm on there.
Right, casual Twitter or
you feel more professional doing it from your laptop.
I'm back on MySpace. I'm bringing back MySpace.
There you go.
All right, you can check out our affiliates too. Flyers High and Wide. They're on X at Flyers HW. 5 Minute Major Podcast is on X at 5 Minute Major Pod, and that is it for us, fellas, folks, ladies, gentlemen, everybody listening. Have a wonderful week ahead, and let's go Flyers.
Bye now.